Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Emily. Good morning, Andrea. Andrea's here also. And Tom, if you could, there's a microphone in the bottom left corner. If you can request, I sent you the invite. And you have to do it on your phone, though. I just want to make sure you know that. You got to be able to speak. You have to be it on your phone. How you doing, Emily? There he is.
Currently doing okay today. My internet keeps going in and out, so I'm hoping I can make it through the whole hour today. But if not, I'll pop in and out, and I'm excited to speak to Tom today.
Fantastic. I'm excited too. So everybody, welcome to the Empower Yourself Monday. This is our episode 31. We're excited about this. And again, this is a recorded space and it's also being live streamed to all social networks. So when you grab the mic, if you have any question, you know that you're being recorded. And today's special guest is one of our members, Tom Furman. And I'm just going to give the mic to Emily. I wrote everything up already, Emily. It's in the blog.
I can't get to any pages right at the moment. I'm trying to, and I'm getting all snap on every single one of my things right now because of my internet. I was able to get on here. If you give me just a moment, I'll try to pull it up a different way. I'm just having some online problems this morning.
Well, let's say hi to Tom. Hi, Tom. How are you? If you can just hit the microphone right there, Tom, bottom left corner.
There we go. Better?
Sound perfect.
Okay. Yeah, this is different. I'm used to writing a lot in the morning, and speaking is another part of my brain, but we'll make this work.
Yeah, that's the other subject we want to talk about is the amount of publishing that you're doing, the writing that you're doing. That's one thing I want to make sure we talk about in the social media and how long you've been doing this. So I'm excited about this.
Good.
So I was just able to get in, and before we get started with Tom, I want to give everybody listening a little bit of background about who we're speaking to today. So Tom Furman has been in martial arts and conditioning since 1972. With an early background in wrestling and a student of the methods of the York Barbell Club, Tom immediately separated fact from fiction growing up outside Pittsburgh. 11 members of his family were combat veterans, the most famous being Uncle Charlie, Charles Bronson. His down-to-earth training methods derive from his decades-long practice of martial arts and his study of exercise science. The application of force, improvement of movement, and durability rank high on his list of priorities when training. He gives credit to hundreds of hours of seminars, training sessions, and backyard workouts, including training time with many martial arts legends as well, which I'm excited to hear about. He also credits his incredibly gifted training partners from varied backgrounds, such as exercise physiologists, airborne rangers, bounty hunters, boxing trainers, and Coast Guard rescue divers. His best-selling ebook, Armor of War, is available at tomfurman.com. His guide to mobility, called Bamboo Gods, Iron Men, and Rubber Bands, is available on Amazon. And Tom's current book is Seasons of Temper, also available on tomfurman.com. And that gives us a lot to talk about today, Tom. You are a man of many talents, it seems.
A good imagination, one of the two. So.
Good imagination, some kind, like it trumps all, right? I feel like that's creativity and imagination is the key.
Yeah, I think many people have very interesting lives, but their ability to communicate what's interesting. You'll ask someone something and they say, oh, I worked in Alaska for 4 years. And you go, well, wow, that's amazing. And they'll go, yeah, it was okay. And that's pretty much the end of it. And they can't communicate to someone who hasn't been to Alaska the adventures or the living conditions or the experiences they had. And so that's something I work at daily, and I enjoy writing and I enjoy communicating. So it's a little bit easier now than it was maybe 30, 40 years ago.
So how did you I mean, I know that your books are somewhat or are martial arts related and movement related and all of that. But how did you first get started in the martial arts realm, and how did that bring you into writing today? Tell us about your journey in that.
Well, I was born in 1957. So growing up, my influences, almost all the fathers were either World War II veterans or Korean War veterans. That was almost 100%. And my family comes from a very blue-collar background. My dad's side of the family worked in mills, and they don't have to necessarily be steel mills, but fabricating mills in the Ohio River Valley near Pittsburgh. And my mother's family dug coal in coal mines early in their life back near Johnstown, Pennsylvania. So that was my concept of manhood, is guys left coal mines and they left the mills to win world wars. And it was most everyone. And that was the environment I grew up in. On media at that time was war TV shows about war or movies, cowboy movies, which, there's very few now, but there was tons and tons of television was cowboy movies. And so my early influences were people like Robert Conrad in Wild Wild West and Bruce Lee on The Green Hornet and James Bond and things like that. And so that it was a very fertile environment for my imagination. The concept of manhood was not sailing a boat, which is a wonderful activity. It's just not the one I grew up with. And it was a rather harsh environment. If you drove down into the valley from where we lived up in the more wooded area, the skies were pink with exhaust from the steel mills, pink constantly. It's not like that now. But there were creeks that were completely filled with sulfur all the time. They're not like that now, fortunately. But that was the environment I grew up in. And so when you get your ongoing adolescence and the kind of a burst of testosterone in your system, the concept of protecting yourself and fighting and that sort of thing become more popular. And you get introduced to boxing, you get introduced to Western Pennsylvania is a very wrestling-centric culture in terms of high school sports. It's very, very, very popular in Western Pennsylvania. And at that period in the late 60s, early 70s in Pittsburgh, professional wrestling was huge. Bruno Sammartino is a local hero in Pittsburgh, and he is legendary. And so that's kind of a very, like I said, fertile environment for young boys to strive to be stronger men. And so martial arts was something I always wanted to do, and I got involved with it as a long time passion. And I'm not a great athlete, so I wasn't natural at anything. So I started studying more about how to get my body in better shape, move faster, be more flexible, be stronger. And those things fascinate me to this minute. And by trying to improve myself, I've developed knowledge and some skills to help other people do that. And that's what I currently do. I do it. When I teach fitness, I do not visit people's house. I do not attend a gym. I email people and tell them what to do, and they do it, and they get incredible results. So that's the nutshell version of that.
So that's amazing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tonya. Were you about to say something?
No. Go ahead, please.
Okay. No. Go ahead. I was just go ahead. I hit the wrong button. Go ahead.
No. That makes a lot of sense as far as where you grew up and that idea of what the ideal masculinity or what a man was like, right? And you are quite a storyteller. Like I really enjoyed listening to your backstory. So it makes sense that you went into writing as kind of part of your whole entire story as well, because you do seem you have a knack for it. Was that something you knew early on as well, that you enjoyed writing and things like that, or into communicate? I mean, I know you mentioned communication being a big part of things, but how did you find that side of yourself as well?
Early on, like if you had to write something for class, that was the only part easy for me. Math wasn't easy, science wasn't easy, English wasn't easy. Unfortunately, English wasn't easy. It's still not too good, too sharp. But that part was easy. The creative part of thinking, things popping into my head. I've spoken to musicians, for example, and it's completely fascinating to me, but they'll sit with a guitar and hit a few notes and come up with a song. And in the simplest of situations. And that's fascinating because that's completely outside of my wheelhouse. But for me to come up with ideas, I write a newsletter twice a week. And it's obviously to promote myself and put a few ads in there for my books and my training services. But I offer some quick links to things fitness-oriented, martial arts-oriented. But sometimes I'll write a list the night before and sometimes I won't. But I'll wake up in the morning, open it up. The only thing I'll do a little ahead of time is start an image. I'll get an image, and I like black and white, so I'll do some work in black and white and make it kind of grainy as the image. And then I'll put some links in there and introduce people to new ideas, which can include things like recipes, the softer side of me, and training methods, equipment, those sort of things, knife collecting, those type of things. And those just pop out of my head. Literally, it isn't like I have a plan 3 weeks ahead and it's on a big whiteboard in my house. No, it's pop. So if there's any natural talent there, early on writing things that were funny, writing things were adventurous. I wrote for a school newspaper in middle school back in God knows when, like 71, 72. And I found it pretty easy. So if that's the only easy thing there is, that would be it. It's just writing comes easily for me. That doesn't mean I don't have hard times. I'm struggling now, but it's easier than most.
And so how about, I mean, communication as a whole when it comes into things like social media? Has that, as Tonya mentioned at the beginning, you were an early adopter into social. Was that something that also was, too many thoughts, got to get them down somewhere, let's pop into Twitter and put them down? Or how did you initially jump in on the social side of things?
Well, people were doing blogs years ago. They were doing them on Google and Blogger, I guess it is. I think it's still out there. And I had a friend who would just put his training on a blog. He would just write down, this is what I did today. And it's very common for people in fitness industries. We'll list them on groups and websites how we train. And then your buddies can look at it and ask questions and so forth. And he was putting it up and I said, is this helping business? He said, not really. I just do it to keep track of things. That I show up every time. And if I didn't show up and say I'm doing this, people say, well, what are you doing? And so it was like 2005 and I short blog, and it preceded Facebook, and it preceded a lot of things, and I had quite a following. Luckily, I could say I wrote a blog and put it on we had forums in those days. It was a very popular fitness forum, and you didn't get in trouble for that because usually self-promotions nowadays, people kick you off, and I got a lot of traffic that way, and I was kind of shocked. But then I even had people, I was at a kettlebell championships in Miami in 2007, and people were walking up like, where do you get all this stuff? I'm like, it's what my brain looks like. And I worked from there to a website, and when I had an administrator for a website, he just said, social media will be driving websites. You'll link to social media, and they'll go to your website to see what you have. And so I got involved with that. I'm not terribly sophisticated. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Yeah, that's it. And Twitter. But that's about as sophisticated. I'm not going to do anything for a youthful demographic. My demographic is people, I'd say, over 40, primarily men. Can I write for women? Yes. So far, it hasn't gone too well. Same physiology. There's differences, obviously. It's more like a dimmer switch for a light. Men might be at one end, women at the other, but we're all humans. We're not Vulcans. So the physiologies, they're a little bit different for women. But writing things for women, it's just not my demographic. Training women, yeah, I'm training a lot of women currently online. But same exercises, calories are the same. But my demographic, I really stay in that wheelhouse. And if it goes outside of that and someone's interested, it's easily adaptable. But I tend to write towards that harsher edge of men who like to watch Ultimate Fighting and like to go to the gym and talk about what they deadlifted that week and whether they're using bands or chains on the barbell for lifting or what type of knife they bought that week. It sounds harsh, but it's distraction, it's fun, and 99.9% it's just playful, good expression of who you are.
So, because so many of us, listening today, I have to ask, like, we're all on our phones all day and we're all on computers all day and everybody is nonstop, I feel like, looking down and sitting down and pretty inactive for the most part. So overall, like, on your end, do you work a lot with people who are finding issues from all of that? Do you, I feel like you have a lot of potential clients here who would love some online help figuring out the therapy side of that and the healthier side of all of this online stuff we do.
Yeah, the main thing there is your activity per week, and people like to if they're saying they're doing 10,000 steps a day, that's a good thing. If you have I work on a laptop all day, so I understand exactly what you're saying. You need to stand up more often, so you need the option of a stand-up desk, even if it doesn't have to be expensive all the time. Stack books under your laptop and stand up. Stand up, put your phone in a holder, stand up. Move around a little bit. The more you shift your posture, the healthier it is, including getting on the floor. One thing adults don't do is get on the floor. And if you go to a kindergarten and you said, okay, kids, get down on the floor, they all jump down, jump up, jump down, or run, it's not a problem. Go to a senior citizens home and try that. It's not going to be that effective. That's going to be a problem, getting down to the floor. So it doesn't cost anything. It doesn't require a gym membership. It doesn't require buying expensive food supplements or, really, really good anabolic steroids. All it requires is getting up from the ground and getting down to the ground. So at times it's very helpful to take your laptop or your phone and just get down on the ground. That, like I said, costs nothing. You're getting this for free. People have neck problems, and I noticed what they call kyphosis, the rounding of the upper spine, and problems from hunching over, and it's something that goes on with age, and it isn't necessary. It existed 50 or 100 years ago, so it is existing more now from people looking at their phones and computers. Yeah, you drive, you look at a laptop, you look at your phone, you sit in the couch, you watch TV. It's probably not optimal. So everybody should be getting their regular dose of strength training, cardiovascular training, and some sort of movement flexibility type training. No method trumps one another. You need all three. And if people mention this is better or that's better, they probably don't know what they're talking about. But extending the spine in the other way, what we call arching the spine, extending, and the neck is very important. I see a lot of people walk by, and I'd say 70 to 80% of them, they're forward neck posture. And but that happened in age. You'd see people when I was a kid, and I'm in my 60s. You see people as a kid bend over like that for whatever reason, whether it's just their mental attitude or their physiology. But extending the spine, a little bit of yoga, doesn't build a lot of strength, but up dog, cobra pose, those things help like that. And if you do it on a regular basis, along with strength and so forth, it'll help. But if you're going to work all day in an environment involving social media or data or code writing, you need to move more. You need to have maybe 2 chairs that you sit in differently. You need to stand. You need to do it on the floor. That'll solve a lot of problems.
Thank you. I literally just took my phone and got on the floor because I will take that advice.
Yeah, I just stood up and reached through the sky.
Wonderful.
Nope. Already inspiring us on this Monday morning, Tom. I like it.
There you go.
So now let's talk a bit about your books. So you started writing. Are you self-publishing? Is it, because Tonya mentioned you publish as well?
Yeah, I did one on Amazon, and I think the content's good. The Kindle didn't work out exactly the way it should, so people always buy Kindle first because it's cheaper. And the softback's good. I haven't read it in a long time. That's one thing. You write something, someone asks you a question about what you wrote, and you're like, well, I got to read that book again. I haven't read it in a long time. And then when you read it, it's like, I can't imagine I wrote this. But I have one on Amazon, Bamboo Gods, Iron Man and Rubber Bands, and that is about mobility and stretching and various types of adapting it to different body parts and using bands and weights and things like that to make it work better. My last book was Seasons of Temper, and that was basically, I published articles on medium.com, and it has a paywall. So you could read one, but I think you only get so many before they block you out and you have to pay for a membership. And so people would say, hey, I can't get in. So I took a series of articles and I turned them into a book, and that's how we got Seasons of Temper. The next one I'm actually currently writing is called Autumn Struggle, and that's basically how to fend off age with training. And originally I was going to call it, it's a TV show, which I had to look up. I didn't know it's called Not Dead Yet, but Autumn Struggle is a little bit softer term. And my association with Tonya started with Life Extension, on which I was a member since like 1980. And Life Extensionists, several of us kind of make fun of the whole culture, of which I am a member. But they're willing to take any amount of supplements, questionable drugs, questionable practices, yet the idea of some serious weight training, cardiovascular work, exercise is completely foreign to them. They'll practice caloric restriction because it works in rats, and they'll get feeble and under-muscled, and they'll have and they'll be cold too because you don't eat enough, you get cold. And it's a miserable lifestyle. Well, now you've compromised quality of life for what you think will be quantity of life. And that's still a crapshoot. You are not sure. So there are two things. There are lifespan and health span, and hopefully they match. Because most people, as they get older, live to 106. He wasn't playing rugby at 106. And those final few years are very tough. So this book that I'm currently writing is going to be the technology from the exercise point of view and general diet ideas to expand health span as long as lifespan, particularly if you've been athletic before or you had a certain amount of pride in how you looked naked before. Some people don't, they just buy different wardrobe. But it's going to dwell on those things and give people choices and alternatives, and very flexible ones. They need to be very, very flexible because current society, it's mobile, it's online, it's a lot of things, and people need flexibility in their life. And that's the important thing, where I think 30 years ago, it might be more rigid. You have to do this, you have to do that. And then to tell you, oh, you need to run. Well, I live where it snows. Well, you could run in the snow. And that was the answer. Now we have to be more flexible in our approach to things, if anything. And so that's the direction my current publishing is. But my other publishing is just ideas of workouts. I did one for martial arts people, combat rock. Train for Life was kind of a blending of my methods and so forth. And I did one for just solely body weight training that you could literally do anywhere in the world, Armor of War. And I did a little follow-up, frequently asked questions to Armor of War. And the cover was a man using my workout book in a field in Kenya doing security work. And so if he can do that, anybody can do that. So that's the direction I kind of write. I try to make things a little bit innovative, not new, but like, let's see how we can apply this over several areas versus just one area.
I also would like to talk to Tom about his, besides his Medium that he published a lot, also his LinkedIn, like, and how he developed it. Because you got a huge following, don't you?
Yeah, it was started. I don't take LinkedIn seriously. Honestly, it's like for grown-ups, and I haven't figured out what I want to do for a living yet. And I'm in my 60s. But it's like guys who wear suits and like have titles. And someone said, "Oh, you should get on there too." Okay, it's another place. And twice a week when I publish my newsletter, I link it there, and I get a few followers and stuff. But one day is you'd link up with people you knew. And I go, okay, I got this many, and then I added a couple. Then I had this thing where I was, the phone I had at the time had a stylus. This is pretty funny. Had a stylus, and which I didn't use, but I woke up one morning and I thought, oh, geez, I could click all these people and ask them to link up, and I could do it fast with the stylus. So I'm hitting all these buttons, and they didn't stop me at the time. They have fail-safe systems in now. So they didn't stop me, so I'm adding hundreds of people. So I got to like 1,000. I thought, well, that's good. Well, I could do better than that. Let me try 3,000. So it kept going. So now I'm maxed out at 30,000 people. And that's all they allow you. So it's just a broader medium to spread my publishing and my ideas and my business and so forth. I did, as far as I get the average amount of spam, and people want to give me loans, people who want to promote, pay me, I'll promote your business. And you get so many people from China with industrial anabolic steroids they want to sell you every so often. But other than that, I just use it to market my writing and my training business.
Have you met any bots in there? There's so many bots on LinkedIn. I didn't even realize there's such thing as bots on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and like, it's funny because I've been following, I keep up with your rooms, believe it or not, I keep up with them. Try to look around and listen to it in a minute or two. And all of a sudden, someone's following me on Twitter, and it's all these Twitter hookers. And I'm like, I can see what Elon Musk is talking about, because you could put a sock puppet out on Twitter. I get it. But they're in mass. And you get so-and-so's following you. You say, oh, must be American Women in Communication. You look, and it's 20-year-old girl in a bikini. So you block them. And the same thing on LinkedIn. Everybody pays for these services on LinkedIn that automatically sends you email back. So when I was adding tons of people, I just get tons of this stuff. And you run into bots there, and it's just, I guess it's just a phenomenon of what we're in. I mean, think about it. 30 years ago, we wouldn't even know what we're talking about. So it's kind of interesting from that standpoint. But it's I really don't know about the mechanisms of LinkedIn, and they say you could even blog on there and stuff, and I'm sure that's fine. I'm not sure that's my demographic. I think it's a glut over there too. I think if you've got looking in the IT world or something like that, or the finance world, that's probably a good place to be. But it's just like it's less interesting than Facebook or Instagram. Let me say that.
So let's talk a little bit about Facebook then, because you and I met. I always remember the time when we met at Starbucks. I think that was 2008. We sat down. We sat there and talked for like hours, and just over the years, just was interesting. And our connection, we've always talked on Facebook. How has Facebook been for you? I mean, because of you introduced us to our photographer, Andrea.
Yes,
she was incredible. So tell us about that. How was Facebook to you as far as marketing your brand?
I had a discussion with a trainer up in Canada who we've followed each other for a few years, and his specialty is a little bit different from mine. So we'll ask questions of one another, and he's younger than me. And he was telling me about the age demographics, and he's doing a lot of pretty good reels on Instagram. And then TikTok, I don't even look at. And then Facebook, I think for the age demographic is correct for what I'm doing. And I tend to look at Facebook, I don't take it very seriously, but I tend to look at it as two things. There's news that shows up. So if you're linked to enough news, headlines pop up like they scrapped the flight this morning. Why did I know? Social media of the moon mission. And so I see things like that. So it's a combination of news and then personal insight, what people did, which is like walking down to town hall. So I kind of view Facebook as like town hall. You go down, you want to talk about someone's children or grandchildren, great. You want to talk about politics, great. You want to talk about what the city's doing with the streets, great. That's Facebook, and I'd say that's been for marketing. You get a pretty decent following doing that. You get followings for doing a lot of things and pushing information or services. Everybody's got ads, and some of the ads are, there's a guy who used to be I won't mention names. I should, but I won't. I'm kind today. He used to promote fitness, and he got very good at email marketing. Then he started something about your most effective morning system or whatever it is. And he said, things I don't do daily is read a book a week, have a morning system, this, that. He says, and go on Facebook. And I'm like, the ad's on Facebook, dude. So that's the problem with Facebook's ad, is you get a little bit disconnected. And I'm sure they're wonderful mechanisms for that, but I don't feel I need to be spending money doing that. As long as you can produce material and be consistent. That seems to be the trick. I know people who use social media, they get a following because they have the fantastically rich personality, and whatever they're doing in real life, they have a lot of followers who tend to follow them. So that expands. And then they only use social media to promote they're doing an event. Then they disappear. And I just think that's kind of insincere. Not that everyone's rowing the boat of social media. Trust me, it'll row itself. But social media, the concept of being social is communicating, touching base with people. How are you today? Oh, I like what you said. Oh, I haven't eaten at that restaurant. Oh, that looks like a fun place to go. Oh, you saw that movie? That's what Facebook is. And to me, that's a more hospitable environment. Instagram is another huge thing, but I think it's a younger demographic. And I think if you have to work harder if you're producing content in my business, which is fitness, health, that sort of thing. The other portion of Instagram is young wannabe model girls who become influencers because of their looks. And just like professional athletes, professional fighters, there's an expiration date on that career. So you better be smart with your money and smart with your career. But that, if I were younger, that would be the thing. Sure, everybody should take a shot at that, but you have to have a realistic long-term plan versus a short-term plan that you have, really big lips and nice skin and everything like that, and go on Instagram. That's the market I see there. And like I said, TikTok, I know nothing about. So that's and by the way, that was funny. We were supposed to speak for like 30 minutes at Starbucks, went into being like 3 hours. So that was funny.
I really appreciate all your support with women in communication over the years. Just attending all our events, especially at the Blue, and Tom's the one that will reach out to me and say, "When's the next meeting?" Well, we're going to start meeting in person.
This virtual thing is killing me. This is ridiculous. Need to get out and shake some hands and say hello and meet people, and it's how fast can you type? Everything you could speak now. I understand we're speaking, but it's like you want to communicate business, typing notes back and forth, and some people are not good at it. We talk about texting versus like Messenger and other forms of communication. And I wrote a blog years ago. And no one here is my age. Doc Severinsen used to be the musical director for Johnny Carson. And I called the Doc Severinsen principal, and he didn't have a secretary when he started with Johnny Carson at NBC. And he said, I really need one. And the producer and the producer's assistant came down and said, well, we can't afford one. Let's talk about this. And the assistant, while the producer was talking to Doc Severinsen, looked, and there were bags of mail for Doc Severinsen, bags. And she goes over, she goes, you mind if I open some of this? He says, yeah, that's what I mean. I need a secretary. So she got a little table and started opening it up. And they're talking and they're bitching back and forth about money and secretaries, which at that time would have been like $20,000, $25,000 a year for a secretary. So she opens a stack of envelopes and she said, stop the meeting. Doc, here is the Phoenix Philharmonic when she was a Pops director. Here's an advance check for $10,000. Here's Buffalo Philharmonic. They want a Pops director. Here's a check for $7,000. So by not opening his communication, he was missing out on $17,000, $1970. And that's the way I look at when people say, oh, I don't even look at Messenger on Facebook, or I don't answer this, or I don't answer that, or I'm not on there. Well, I'm like, okay, but what if someone offered you a $50,000 deal and it's just sitting there for months? And not only do they say they put it there and they didn't get a reply, now a couple years later they bump into you. They're like, oh, when's the last thing I thought about Joe Smith? Oh, he doesn't answer his email, and I offered him $50,000. What a jerk he is. And open your communication. Even if it's a lot, you can get rid of the spam. You can unsubscribe from almost everything that you don't use, but communicate. And it's American Women in Communication. If you're in that, what you do is you communicate. You say, I've been gone. That's meaningless to me. That's you're complacent. You're not holding up a bargain. You know, you pay your mortgage every month, and that's a contract. Someone says meet at 3:00. That's a contract. Communicate. I sent you an email. Oh, I didn't see it. That's bullshit. That's just nonsense. And that's tells you a lot in turn about who you're dealing with in terms of the business. You look at their end result. Is there a more efficient way of getting there? Maybe, but lack of communication. When American Women is about communication, that's a very poor excuse. So yeah, AWC has been a really good group for meetings, social media, and charities, and it's a very nice group to be around. I really like it.
Well, I think we've done quite a bit of. I think we did an event with Robin where you helped a lot too. We did an event on art, social media and artists.
Yes.
I think that was 2009 or something like that. I can't remember. There's so many
events.
Yeah,
it was 2009, 2010 right in there. Yeah.
That was interesting. And then, in the early days of social media, I feel like it was such more simpler time. And nowadays there's so many noise. So how do you keep focus on what you're doing? Do you just kind of like, I'm going to stick to these platform and I'm not going to worry about the other ones because it's just too much? I mean, because everyone's like, you're like me. I don't do TikTok, and I'm thinking about doing Snapchat just so I can use their AR filters. But do you just focus on what you're doing? You have your regimen out and just, you publish on your website, you publish on your Medium, and you share your newsletter to LinkedIn. And I know you share to Facebook also, and you share it to Twitter. Tell us about that process.
Yeah, that's if I do a newsletter, I share to those mediums. And I couldn't figure out early on how to do to Instagram, but now I know how. But you have to limit things, and it's the same thing early on. Let's relate this to athletics. Dad was a good baseball player when he was young and in college, but he got a job and he doesn't play baseball, but he sees his son has some similar talent in baseball. So he's very young and he plays catch with his son and he gets him in Little League. Should that son only play baseball? No, he should be doing field hockey. He should be doing football. He should be doing track and field. He should be swimming. Anything he wants to do athletically. That early development, you don't want to isolate and be specific when you're very young. You want to be very general. So let's relate that to social media. If you're first in, it's overwhelming. And certainly years ago, it was far more simple because you had Twitter and you had Facebook. But in the beginning, it's okay to dip your toe in the waters of Snapchat and TikTok and Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and whatever, Substack and all these other, I don't even follow them. It's you dip your toe in, and maybe one is going to be very easy for you. It's going to come naturally. You kind of like the way it looks. It doesn't confuse you. It's not overwhelming. And if you develop strong skills and you apply it to either your passions or your profession, and it helps a bit, it doesn't distract. I mean, you're not at work where you should be doing work and you're on Facebook arguing about something, then it's a benefit. Once you're strong on one platform, you can move to another platform. So we relate back to the baseball player, that maybe young baseball players aren't strength training a lot, but the football players are, so he gets exposed to strength training, good. He gets in track and field, he ends up having to run a lot, which is going to benefit him. So that's good. So these things have transferable benefits. And by later on specifying, and you could decide as you go through college or whatever, this is where I'm going to be. I'm not really big enough for football, and I'm not tall enough for basketball, but baseball seems to be the one. Then you can isolate it and you can get better. But a good baseball player probably could, because he did all types of sports, could shoot a few baskets and he could play touch football because athleticism transfers, specific skills less so, but they've been exposed to those things. And so if something like Facebook just takes a dump one day and it goes to just like Instagram or Twitter or whatever medium it's going to be, the ability to transfer then is not that hard. So I'd say pick one or two mediums and get better at them before you decide. It's like any learning skill. You don't want too many varieties because it becomes harder to learn. There's too much information. 100 things is easy. Paring it down to like 10, that's hard. But if you focus on those 10, then that can grow exponentially. And so for me, age-wise, information-wise, and comfort, Facebook would be it primarily. But Medium's is just a writing medium, like a nice name for it. But it's a place to write, and I found it, and I go, okay, I like it. The word processor is easy, and it's easy to publish. It's smooth, it's simple. And so I'll publish on there, then I'll publish to Facebook, and I'll link to LinkedIn, and I'll put the article on Instagram with a link in my bio, and I'll do, I'll link it there, and that's about it. Like I said, I'm not going to go outside of it to all these singing stars on TikTok and Snapchat. Like I said, I don't even really know much about those at all. That's a youth-oriented thing. That's not my market. So.
Yeah, I think Emily and we talk about this. You market to who you're going to work with and what represents, and depending on, like Emily has incredible brands that she works for, and that you're on TikTok, right, Emily? Like that's your big marketing part.
Yeah, I personally, not really. I mean, my husband and I have our some travel stuff we put up and all of that. But for my clients, yeah, we do a lot of TikTok nowadays, both for youthful demographic, but also there's segments of TikTok. So there is like old TikTok. There's people who are like over the age of even like 60, 70, 80 who are on TikTok. And there is a demographic on there for everybody. And you don't always have to dance or make silly videos like that. So we really do a lot of training on our end on how to use TikTok for different demographics like that. I love it. I think it's a lot of fun. And you can syndicate that content from TikTok onto Instagram and other things. So it works out nicely that way too.
So it's about 15 minutes. If anyone in this space would like to grab the mic, please do. I know Andrea Hammer, who's always been one of our guests, she's here too. And she has a product too. Actually, I just got it. So she's the founder and creator of Max Pack. So we had lunch the other day, and I was like, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get this. So I got the whole pack, and she's going to train me. And then I told her, you got to come and meet up with Tom, because between the two of you guys can really collaborate. So I'm hoping to introduce both of you. I don't know, Tom, do you know Andrea Hammer?
No, I have no idea.
You guys have the same friends, actually. I looked you up on Facebook. So I told her to come. She probably can't get to she's probably in the middle of something, but I want to make sure you guys meet because you both have the same philosophy as far as,
Well, when
skinny.
we do an in-person thing, I'm sure we will.
As he, we're working on it. We're supposed to get together on Friday. I was going to talk to you about that. But any thoughts on what, like nowadays, a lot of people we're so in front of the screens and everything. Did you want to give us some, I know you gave us some tips already, but we can go ahead and just kind of like wrap up the space. So, and Andrew, I think Andrew tried to call me, but I can't pick up the phone. But Andrew, if you want to chat, just bottom left corner, there's a microphone icon. Just tap that and you can just pop right on. But if you're in the middle of something, that's okay. I'm definitely going to get set up an intro for both of you because I think you both should meet. But Tom, go ahead and tell us, like, what are some things that, as someone that myself, especially, I sit in front of the computer on the phone, I get up, I walk, I move, I stretch. And now I have the Max Pack to like stretch out with. And Tom's gonna give me a hard time about my kettlebell, but
I'll make a quick summary. Is especially I don't know what the age group is here because I don't want to make any assumptions. As we age, the biggest part of aging, which people neglect, and Aubrey de Grey and all these David Sinclair, all these people tend to miss, is we lose muscle. And so two of the most important things, more powerful than any drug or supplement you could do, is you could strength train and you can work on your cardiovascular fitness. And if you're not, then it's not even a discussion. It's not a debatable thing. And dietarily, our ability to synthesize protein reduces with age. And also our appetite. If you go to an NFL training camp, you'll see a guy eats 2 steaks. If you go to a nursing home, no one's chowing down on steak or chicken breasts. Our appetite tends to wane. So find a target weight. A target weight is relatively lean and healthy. You have to find out what's good for you, but women carry a little more fat than men, obviously, hormonally. But find out what's appropriate weight for you. And then you eat that many grams of protein per day. So if you're a 140-pound kid who wants to play football, he wants to weigh 200, he should eat 200 grams of protein a day. If you're a 300-pound guy in an office who's completely out of shape and your good weight is 200 pounds, he should eat 200 grams of protein a day. That's pretty simple. And the same for women. Women are massively under protein in terms of what they eat. Look at what they eat. I don't even know how they exist. Strength training, keeping muscle in your body. You lose muscle with age, percentage every decade, every year. Gaining muscle is going to be tough as you get older. So you fight the fight to maintain muscle. Aging is often just a loss of muscle in the body. We wear out, we've got that. We have ways of transplanting organs. We do wonderful things with medicine, but we could build our muscles or maintain our muscles. And you could just challenge yourself in different ways. And they don't have to be severe. They have to be consistent. Consistency beats intensity every time. And certainly you lose range of motion with age. So you want to do things which can be strength training, certain types of strength training, to maintain or increase ranges of motion around your joints. And this will prevent a lot of the age-related problems of staring at computer screens and staring down at our phones and walking with our head down and not straight ahead. I mean, our eyes are in the front of our head. We're predators. We should be looking ahead. And so those are the simple things. There's no magic to diet. It's about calories. Lots of vegetables, healthy fats, lean sources of protein. Fasting, the science isn't there. It's questionable. It works with small animals like rodents. A few changes might happen in humans, but they're not dramatic. Fasting or intermittent fasting do not provide any other magic other than the reduction in the total amount of calories you're consuming. So if it's about fat loss and getting leaner or getting stronger, gaining muscle, you need to eat appropriately. But those are the things. Stay active, 10,000. They say it's 7 to 10,000 steps, and that's going to be all over the map. It's how active you are. But those things don't hurt. If you're not an athletic person, but you're walking 10,000 steps a day, good, but you're still going to need strength training. One doesn't change for the other. Or so, oh, I like yoga. There's nothing cardiovascular about yoga. You sweat a lot, but you're not doing cardiovascular work. You're doing isometric strength work. You're not doing any what we call big pulls that you would do in regular strength training, like picking things up off the ground. That doesn't happen in yoga. So you need all three. And time-wise, it does not take that much time. If anybody says it takes a lot of time, it doesn't. In any loss of fat, I'll reiterate some things, comes from diet. It doesn't come from exercise. Running a mile burns about 100 calories. A bagel's what? 350 calories. A glass of wine's 150 calories. So a mile run does not burn off a glass of wine. So those are things to think about, and they're very, very simple. They're not more costly than buying your groceries, and they require very little equipment. So that's a quick summary on how to prevent yourself from aging without getting into immense amounts of chemistry. So.
They say that exercise, I think I always share that articles with this, exercising and movement helps with Alzheimer, as far as that you won't get Alzheimer. Nothing
is more powerful than combining strength training with aerobic training in terms of staying young, resisting aging, period. Nothing. And if you go into a meeting and they're going to talk about metformin, or they're going to talk about the latest food supplement, they have like, what did you do to work out this week? And they all look around, well, I walked down the block to get the mail. Then they shouldn't even be in a meeting. They're looking for magic. All they're getting is smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, I think with social media and different things, people have different perception of what healthy is, and thank goodness we have people like you, Tom, to be really upfront about it.
Well, when you're young, you look at the stuff, everything's magic, and a lot of us reminisce to these old muscle magazines, and all the crap we'd send away for and buy and try, and all the dumb routines we'd try. I mean, to point of injury and sickness. Just. A guy was living on tuna, water, and ephedrine. Okay, it works, but it'll nearly, it's rather severe. But all the dumb stuff we did, and the old dumb question is, what would the old you tell the young you? Oh, there's lots of things I tell them. Would they listen? No. When you're young, you're dumb. Doesn't mean I'm not saying you're not intelligent or you don't have wonderful qualities. You just don't have enough experience at failing. And when you fail and you gain data from it, you get wisdom. And as you get older, that wisdom, you think you can pass it on to younger people. And no, they need to go through that process too. It's still, though, people don't quite grasp logic and evidence. And if their friend did it, then that's evidence, versus if you have 45 studies on PubMed. And I hear it all the time. So it's just, you can't get frustrated. I do. You can't get frustrated. You just have to explain it to people and make it clear if that's what they want. If they want to be very clear about it, that's what you're there for. That's part of the job.
Thank you so much for being here. It's about 10:55. We got 5 more minutes left. I think Andrea wants to meet up with you, but her thank goodness Legion is here, because if you have Android, it's up for update right now. You got to update your phone for it to work correctly. So Andrea, we'll have to get together and have a lunch or a tea.
Okay. Okay. Our family caterer in Boca there is in Greece right now, so we can't go there.
Well, she should be back on the 4th, and so that's because I'm supposed to plan something with her, because we have we want to do some education and provide lunch, dinner from them. So we're going to be working on that, and then also we have the new location for education, so we're going to and we should need to go there.
We should have some really big parties there.
Well, it's a pretty good sized place, so we could.
Yeah.
So any final thoughts, Tom?
Check out my website, easytomfurman.com. Check me out. Medium, I'm easy to Google. I'm easy to find. Medium Tom Furman, and I have, I think, almost 100 articles up on Medium, and more to come. When I get an inspiration, the last one had to do with training for movies. If you want to be a movie action hero, and involved the history of it, what makes a difference when you're on camera, how some actors train for roles, and then how to apply this to your own training. And science is not cinema. So that's the article I wrote, which ended up being long. Could almost have been an ebook, but it ended up being long. But that was a lot. It's been cooking in my oven for quite some time, but that one finally came out.
So Emily, any final thoughts?
So my final thoughts is I learned a lot today. Sorry, my stuff wasn't working as well to fully speak to you, Tom, but I really did learn quite a bit. And I think that a lot of what you said, particularly about aging, and just getting up and moving and switching where you're sitting. And now I want to go read all your books, and very inspiring today. So thank you, because I think it's a topic that all of us have been speaking on quite a bit lately. And again, as somebody who's on social media all the time, it's in my face consistently, all these trends. And, go keto, do this, do 1 minute of running to a Busta Rhymes song is the new challenge, right? And you do that every day, and then you'll just be super fit and you don't have to do anything else. And it's like, it's not magic. So it's great to hear somebody speak the truth and talk about having to put in the work, but in a way that feels possible. And it doesn't feel,
It shouldn't be overwhelming. It shouldn't be overwhelming.
Yeah.
If you think you're getting in more, like you have to go out, buy workout clothes and stuff, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Or I haven't been to the gym, I put on 20 pounds. That's more bullshit. People saying things like that, or I took this pill and I lost 15 pounds. Those things just drive me. Oh, isn't protein bad for the kidneys? Things like that. Those things drive me nuts. They just drive me nuts. So.
No, I bet. And there's so much misinformation out there. So it's amazing. If you're listening today, look up Tom, go to his website, reach out to him, and then learn what's not bullshit. Learn the real stuff that's out there and how to really make a change.
So before we go, I need to know that 1 minute Busta Rhymes challenge. What is that?
So
Tell me.
I will say this. It's super fun to do because Busta Rhymes, he raps really fast. So it's really fast. And you're supposed to run super fast for a minute. And my kids and I do it. And my friends and I have done it. It's fun to do. But then they're like, that's all you have to do. You'll just lose all this weight and just be fit. It's the Busta Rhymes challenge. And they have people, you do it for, I think it's 30 days and then 60 days, whatever. And so it's from day 1 to day 30 and the difference. And I will agree, if you've been completely inactive and you run for a minute every day really fast to the song, you'll start to probably lose some inches maybe, or feel some things tighten.
That's about 15 to 20 calories you gain and lose in a minute. 15
yeah,
to 20. A pound of fat is 3,500 calories. So let's do the math there. Think about that.
There you go. And the thing is, they're not talking about and again, I just think it's fun. It gets the kids up. I'm like, all right, let's stand up. Let's run for a minute. Right. But that's also along with them playing soccer and this and that and all the other things, eating healthy. None of that's being mentioned in any of the challenges, not just this one, but any of them. Whenever it's a fitness challenge, it's just this, do this one exercise and then magic will happen. So I feel like the social media challenges, some of them are dangerous. Some of them are fun. You still have to do the rest of the work with it.
Yep.
So until the day the magic actually occurs, and there is
Andrea
a pill or something we could take.
Hey, Andrea. She wanted to speak to Tom. Hey, Andrea. Now you got to tap the microphone in the bottom left corner.
Did it work? Am I on?
Yes.
Oh my God. Techno difficulties, I swear. Hi, Tom. I'm Andrea Hammer. I've been on the whole hour listening to you going, oh my God, where's my microphone? Jump in. It's been great to listen to you. I am of your 60 plus generation, and I've been a trainer for over 25 years. And agreeing with everything you say. So I would be honored and really excited to get to meet you in person to get to know you and catch up more. Tonya tells me a lot of really amazing things about you, and from what I hear, I've been a black belt too. I've trained in martial arts and in fitness and self-defense and all those people you mentioned at the beginning of the show. I used to watch all those shows too. So
there you go.
I'm probably the only person on here who really gets all that, what you said. So yeah, I mean, as far back as the Rifleman, okay? And the Fury and the Virginian and Charles Bronson. I heard that's part of your family and all of those guys. So yeah, and Keto from
Bruce Lee Kato.
Kato, yes. And so yeah, I'm familiar with all. That's finally nice to hear someone of that generation who really understand all those things. So yeah, and I would.
And you both look like you're in your 30s.
Well, that's what fruits and vegetables and sneakers and a kiss and a hug and a pet to dog and sunshine and a prayer to God and loving your life is all about. So that's what is the reason for that. And I'm sure that you experience all that too, Tom, right?
Getting kicked in the face a lot in my case. So.
I've had a few punches myself, but more often it has brought me a better lesson than not. So on what not to do so that doesn't happen again. So. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just finally the last 3 seconds I get to jump on and say hello. So I do hope that we can get a chance to meet. I would really, really love to meet you in person and hear more about you and your program and everything you do and all that. So
perfect. I'm so glad you made it. So, okay, everybody, have a great day. We'll be back next Monday for another Empower Yourself Monday. Terry had a business call this morning, so she couldn't do our breathing exercise, but she'll be back next Monday. And again, I want to appreciate Brent for being here, Legion for being here also, and Tom, as always, so informative, so incredible, and I appreciate you for coming on today.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Andrea, for popping in, and I really appreciate you, and we'll talk later.
Okay, honey.
Again, everybody.
Thanks so much for having a great day.
Everybody have a great day. Bye.
Bye.